What's the difference between an inmate-run prison compound and an officer-run prison compound? Well, there's a few things. When I first got to the prison in Dublin, California, I had never been in prison, so I didn't really understand any of this. But they assigned me a job in the kitchen. And when I got to the kitchen, the officers there would talk like inmates. So one of the officers started screaming and yelling, and the inmate who was standing next to me on the serving line said, "You need to tell her to F off," which I wasn't willing to do. And she goes, "Yeah, she yells at you, you yell at her." Well, that's not something that I had done before I went to prison, so I went and found a job in education, and I wasn't treated that way in education. But at the Dublin prison, a lot of the officers acted like inmates, and the inmates ended up having a lot of power there. So I'll give you an example. There were a group of women that were mad that my counselor gave me a room that I asked for. I put in the paperwork and he assigned me to a room. So they went room to room and had all of their friends file what's called a cop-out or a complaint with prison staff saying that I was having an inappropriate relationship with my counselor. And I ended up going to the SHU and lost my room, right? So that's the kind of power an inmate can have when they're in prison if the officers give that to them. And the way to avoid that is if the officers do their job, which can be challenging, right? When I got to the prison in Waseca, there was a big difference between, it was a staff-run compound, and it was much safer and a lot less chaotic. So when I was in prison, I did a program called RDAP, and they made us, the inmates, leaders in that program. And one thing that I learned really fast is that you really find out the character of a person when they have power. As a leader in that program, we had the power to call each other out, we could use it in a good way or a bad way. And I think that's the same for people out here or in prison, but especially with people in prison. Even myself, I had been involved in real estate deals, and there was definitely people that would have more power than others. And so I kind of understood that dynamic. In prison, it's dangerous if the inmates have power. They feel disempowered in many ways, and so you give them power, and a lot of times it's the people in the compound that have been there a long time or that are doing life that have power. But it doesn't have to be that way if the officers run the prison compound, and those are some of the differences.